Now, this question goes to you as an investor in the cab industry. Are you willing to have those electric and the hybrid cars as part of the cars you give to the drivers you employ? Why? And tell us the explanation behind it.
I think the hybrid cars have been with us for some time. You know, there is the Honda Fit hybrid, so many hybrid cars you'll see on the road. In terms of whether they are substantially different from the petrol car in terms of distance covered per a liter of petrol, it is not very different. They will average the same kilometers per liter of petrol. When it comes to electric cars, I think some companies have tried with Nokia, you know, the Nissan Leaf. They have done their shot, and it seems to be a difficult business to crack. Why can't I give my driver an electric car today? Because time is money in this taxi business. Every minute you waste waiting for a customer, stuck in traffic, doing any other thing, you lose money. Because as I have mentioned, drivers don't make money from one trip. They make money from many trips combined. By the end of the day, we will see how many trips you have completed, and it is the aggregate earning from those trips that will give you the income. So why I would not be an early investor in electric vehicles, it is for one reason: charging potential. Today we have, I heard there are several types of, you know, charging stations. There is what we call, I think, level 1, level 2, and level 3. So level 1 are the slow chargers that, you know, a car that has a battery of 30 kilowatt would take around 12 hours to charge until 100 capacity. And then the level 3 chargers are chargers that take close to like 1 hour for them to charge from 0 all the way to 100%. And that is for a car with a battery size of between 20 to 30 kilowatts. So if you charge that battery to full capacity, then it will give you a driver around 300 kilometers. You get my point? But now the problem is the driver has to travel a very long distance to go and find a charging station. Right now, I hear there are 7 charging stations in Kenya. You get the point? It's very, very, you know, inconvenient for a driver to, you know, when you realize that your battery is going down, you drive all the way from Vika to let's say, to Rivers Mall to go and find a charging station. That is very inconvenient. Once you get there, you might find a queue. You find a line. You have to queue up. Then once you start charging, you wait for another 40 minutes. Very, very inconvenient. And in the middle of all that, you are wasting time, which is money. So that for me is the biggest worry. Whether we have the technical expertise to maintain and service electric cars, I am not worried much about it. Because what I learned last week from the conference I attended in Ghana is that electric cars have 50% less components than what we call the ICE car, internal combustion cars. So in the long term, it will be easier for mechanics and technicians to understand electric cars than engine combustion cars. So right now we might not have the competence, but in a very short time, I'll know our mechanics will hack.
Well, that is well explained.
Yes.
Now that you're talking about the cost of all of this, so what is going to be the impact of the cost if we at all consider to go green with this technology?
I would say in the long term, it is said from the case studies that have been done that drivers can save around 30% for a kilometer traveled if they used an electric car. But now, if all factors are put together and then drivers are able to charge the car using the level 5 chargers that will maybe come later and allow drivers to charge within 10-20 minutes, and then those chargers are made available at the homestead, at the compound area, along every street. If those factors are put together, then I think in the long term, the cost will come down. Then another question comes into the cost of acquiring an electric car. Today, if you are buying, an average car that would carry 3-4 people for taxi business, and then, that can travel around maybe 300 kilometers with their battery fully charged, you need to buy it at around 1.5 million. So that's still very expensive compared to what we are buying in Kenya today for taxi business.
What is the green light? What is the red light behind the electricity and e-mobility per se?
In Kenya, we have one big advantage. As I have mentioned, our electricity is relatively green. Our grid emission factor is close to 0. And if you know what I mean, that means all the electricity we are using here, it is not coming from fossil fuel. It is not coming from the coal mines that are burning to turn turbines. Our electricity is coming from solar, it's coming from hydro, it's coming from geothermal. That is the biggest advantage, because the EV cars, they are not being introduced because they are cheap or because they are convenient or anything. They are being introduced in the interests of saving our planet from global warming. So we have all the factors to pursue it. Unlike countries like South Africa, if you bring an electric vehicle in South Africa, it doesn't make sense to the climate, because in any case, you will be charging it using electricity that is coming from a very, very dirty source. So that is the green light we have in Kenya. When it comes to the red light or the red flag, people in Kenya love flexibility. You can't tell me that I use an electric car that can only service me for 300 kilometers, and then what happens if battery runs out after 300 kilometers? What will I do? Maybe I'm in the middle of my village. It's in the middle of the night, and there are no charging station along those paths. So in as much as we are desiring to go this path, a lot needs to be done, especially in terms of infrastructure development and preparedness to scale up. But for me, it's a path we can pursue.
It looks like you have a lot of advice to give us. We should have you in our advisory board.
I'm ready.
We should tag Ruto here and say we have one for you.
If he doesn't go.
Yeah, good one. Anyway, to have a close on it, the Uber business, the cab industry in Kenya has a key role players. Me, who is the client, you, who is the driver, the investors themselves, the stakeholders, the companies, and also the government. So maybe pointing at each of them, what incentives would you propose for them to have hands tied together to work this journey of e-mobility for a safer world? Because that is what we are all eyeing.
Yes, I agree with you. The electric vehicles introduction into Kenya, into Africa, is not being done because it is profitable. It is not being done because it is convenient. It is not being done because it is cheap. It is being done for one single interest, to have a safer planet. Then, if that is the motive, then stakeholders must be incentivized. They must be given incentives to continue the business and to keep it afloat, because if left alone, nobody will crack this nut. So what I can say, all the attention lies with the government. How is the government going to implement the e-mobility framework in Kenya? Are they going to incentivize importers of electric cars? Are they going to give tax holidays to local manufacturers and local assembly companies so that they can reduce the cost of doing that business at this time when the business is at entry level and very, very difficult to operate in Kenya? So what I'm saying is that if the government can do that, then as taxi drivers and taxi owners and taxi investors, we will be willing to import those cars either from China, from Japan, wherever, and then we use them instead of using petrol cars. But you will not tell me to import a car that is more expensive than the one I am using so that I can save the planet. I cannot give two benefits at the same time without me benefiting. So me, I'm ready to save the planet, but also the government should be ready to save me money. So I'm saying, let us incentivize the stakeholders. How we incentivize them, taxation plays a big role, And also for these taxi companies like Uber and Bolt, what they should do is that if any rider is ordering a trip using the green cars, that trip should be 20% cheaper, so that they promote more, more usage of the green cars instead of the one that are using internal combustion engines. So it's all a matter of us coming together against one enemy, which is the global warming.
Yes. Thank you so much for the insights you've given us. You're like among the first people I know that are after going green.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for today's interview. The next one will be more exciting than this, and probably you'll get to see who is behind it.
Thank you.
Okay.